Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I want to be mindful of everyone's time, especially towards the end of the week. So I appreciate you again taking time from your very busy week, I'm sure, to hop on and chat with me about virtual speech therapy and reading services with Emerge. So to get started, I would love to take a moment and be sure to thank our sponsors. I am super excited to be able to talk a little bit about our two amazing sponsors we have joining us today are Ashley Brackett and Carey Estate Planning. A little more about these sponsors. Ashley Brackett brings 8 years of experience in real estate to the table. She has historically excellent customer service and a huge commitment to hard work, listening and following through to her clients and their individual needs. She provides those quality services and really empowers her clients to build those relationships and maintain relationships through effective communication. A little more about her is that she is an ECU Business School graduate, go Pirates, and Ashley moved to Raleigh after graduation to pursue her career near her family home in Chapel Hill. She's super eager to be back and spend time with her husband and son in this triangle. And just like the team at Emerge, Ashley is flexible and creative and really caters the needs of her clients when working diligently on their behalf in finding the best fit for them in the buying and selling process. Our other sponsor, Carey Estate Planning, is also a wonderful organization in the Triangle, and they are a trusted estate planning firm and proud to support Emerge in our webinar series. They believe in a client-first approach with transparent pricing and team support from start to finish, leading to an overall very positive experience. So they're not just passionate about that tailored planning that suits your client's needs best and you best, but they also are located all over the Triangle to make this process that much easier and have offices in Cary, Raleigh, and Chapel Hill as well, and are able to provide services even outside of the Triangle to families in North Carolina at large. So if you've been thinking about getting your will done or have any questions about future planning or might maybe even need to update your current estate planning, this is a good sign to go ahead and schedule a complimentary introductory call and see how they may be able to help you. All right, let's see what we will be discussing today. So a little bit about me is that my name is Megan Church. I'm a speech language pathologist with Emerge Pediatric Therapy, born and raised in Miami, Florida, and I'm currently living in Asheville, North Carolina with my husband and my son. I received my undergraduate degree from the University of Florida and my master's degree from Teachers College, Columbia University. I've been practicing for about 5 years now, and my particular areas of interests are sensory-based therapy, play-based therapy, neurodiversity, reading intervention, and Gestalt language processing and early intervention. So I am very busy with all of my clinical work that I'm super passionate about, but in my free time, I pour into my family with all of those extra minutes in my day. We hike and travel when we can, but mostly with our son being so young, he's 6 months old, we just really enjoy the family time at home. Every day he's so different and he's growing so quickly. I'm trying to soak it all in and capture it all. So here are the primary objectives of our chat today, thinking about speech therapy and what does a speech therapist even do? There's so much to it that I think having some time to discuss that would be really helpful to see what kinds of goals you might be seeking for your family or for your child and how therapy online may be helpful for that. We'll talk about the benefits of virtual therapy, research, reading services specifically and how that works virtually, and have an opportunity for some FAQs and questions and getting started. So what does a speech therapist do? So we are speech language pathologists. So when thinking about that speech portion of our scope of practice, we're talking about the verbal means of communication. So thinking about articulation, phonology, pronunciation, fluency or stuttering, and voice. The language side of things is the understanding and use of communication systems. So that can be oral communication, written, symbols, technologically based communication systems. And this is your receptive expressive language or your comprehension and expressive language, augmentative and alternative communication. So those iPads or more low-tech communication devices for non-speaking clients, pragmatic skills, narrative skills, and reading and spelling fall within this domain as well. And some other areas that we also provide support is feeding and orofacial myofunctional skills. So the benefits of virtual speech therapy really feels endless, in my opinion. Speech therapy online utilizes incredible telecommunication technology that's right at our fingertips to deliver these services remotely. And because there are so many advancements in tech and all of these amazing AI programs and games and online platforms, it really makes the accessibility needs for speech therapy met tenfold. So the overall benefits that I feel are most important to know about virtual services would be with regards to accessibility, convenience, engaging digital tools, and parental involvement. The primary platforms that I use as a virtual only based speech therapist are Zoom and Google Meet, although there are definitely a huge list of other programs that are just as powerful as these two tools. Thinking accessibility, virtual therapy can give you access to these super important services for families that might be in more remote or underserved areas. It's not uncommon, especially in North Carolina, that's so big, to have a family in a more rural area not have access to the therapy that they're seeking just because there aren't enough therapists. So having the ability to be seen online can reduce your wait time to get started because you're not waiting for the one SLP in the area or the county to have availability on their caseload, or even in a more busy urban area, there are many therapists, but everyone is trying to find a spot and the wait list can be quite lengthy. Oftentimes, doing a virtual option reduces that wait time and allows you to start therapy sooner, which is huge. So it can also be highly cost effective by eliminating travel expenses and kind of thinking a little more about what this looks like in real life beyond the rural access. You can cast a wider net for possible providers, avoiding long wait times for local clinics and finding specialists that may not be located in your area, but are accessible in a broader North Carolina area on a virtual platform. The convenience, I feel like, speaks for itself. It eliminates that need for travel and it can save time and reduce stress because of that. As a new mom, I know I'm still kind of learning the ins and outs of this new routine that we've established in our new normal with a baby. But think about the convenience of being able to hop on for virtual session when you have a child that's heavily involved in extracurriculars or more than one child and a busy work schedule. It can be so hard to find the time. Oftentimes, the biggest barrier to making progress in therapy is just finding the time to get it done. So, if you're a parent that has multiple children, you can easily schedule something online without all of the additional logistical challenges of how am I going to get them to the clinic? How am I going to go from the clinic to pick up? And then the drop off lines are so long, and how do I manage everything? It will absolutely satisfy that convenience by just hopping online and doing it virtually. And kiddos can often also participate during school times too, to avoid disruptions to work schedules, which is another big thing. Families are always looking for before school and after school. So those wait times are always, always, always longer than that mid-morning, early afternoon time frame. And when teachers are on board with the plan of care and excited and eager to help your kids grow and develop towards whatever goals you may have for them, they almost always are super on board with helping them get logged in and participate in sessions during school. There are millions and millions of engaging tools online. As I'm sure many of you may know, if you do have school-aged kiddos and all the way through adulthood, because my husband is like still super into all of these like digital platforms and games and stuff. The internet is endless with regards to motivation and things that can capture you and get you excited, right? So virtual therapy is really awesome because it can take advantage of all of those motivating concepts that the internet has to offer. We can do games, we use AI, we use all these multimedia resources like YouTube and videos and design games and building platforms. All of the board games that we think of classically, like Candyland, Monopoly, Risk, all of those are online too. So it really is just such a wealth of opportunity for ways to target your goals in unique ways that keep the kids engaged. So all of those apps and virtual environments can make sessions so fun and interactive. We also have opportunities to share resources immediately with caregivers to really promote that carryover at home and also provide video tutorials for that carryover education if you just feel like you need a refresher. So in my practice, some of the things that I do with my digital tools that always just really get the kids super excited is I utilize a lot of virtual backgrounds to make it fun. So for some of my younger kiddos that are working on language skills or articulation skills, to make it more engaging, I can put the background to look like we're in the jungle and we're going on a scavenger hunt in the jungle, and it really captures their attention that way. And then thinking about the parent side, I use Google Suite as my primary source for sharing education. Every one of my clients has a folder that's shared with the family and sometimes even the client, depending on their age. I have some middle school and high school clients that want to be very actively engaged in their plan of care. And that's where I put a lot of the worksheets that we work through, a lot of the slide decks that I'll put together, video tutorials, additional carryover homework, graphic organizers, you name it, it's there. And what's nice about the online platform piece of that is that it is immediately accessible 24/7 as long as you have internet access. This, I think, is the most important benefit of virtual therapy that is pretty unique to virtual, I found in my experience. The parent or caregiver involvement is a lot deeper on a virtual platform, it feels sometimes. Because when you're online, depending on the age of your child, a parent is really needing to be present to help them stay engaged. And by doing that, they honestly become the therapist. And it's really cool because I watch these parents engaging in play on the floor in the living room or seated with them at a table and working through something that is targeting their reading or spelling skills, really hands on. And I'm almost the little bug in their ear, like an FBI agent, providing them that direct on site feedback to make them feel like, I got this. So, what's so cool about this is that when parents are the ones providing the therapy and getting that coaching in real time, the confidence that they have in continuing the practice when we're done and we shut down our call is tenfold. When you're actually doing it and having that hands on experience, you are more likely to continue the practice outside of your sessions. And when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, we only have 30 minutes or an hour of your time weekly, which is important work, but it's just a drop in the bucket when you think about how much time in a week you have. So parents always feel so empowered and really knowledgeable and confident in what the goals are and how to target them when they're doing virtual services, which I find incredibly powerful. So what does the research say? Because this is another big question I often get is it just as effective as in-person sessions? And there has been countless research done on this topic, especially with all of the data gathered during the pandemic when everyone was doing everything virtual. And overarchingly, the research says yes, it is comparable or sometimes even superior to in-person sessions, which is so cool. So the meta-analysis studies that have been done on this topic, which is the gold standard for research, have indicated that those outcomes are comparable or superior for virtual therapy compared to in-person for a wide variety of speech and language disorders. For kiddos with speech and language disorders, a really great article from 2017 reported similar improvements specifically in articulation and language. And then autistic kids have a lot of research in this area as well. Virtual therapy is great for enhancing communication abilities through those interactive digital interventions and that direct parent education piece, which is crucial. And that specific study highlights improvements in joint attention, verbal expression, and social engagement. And I will say, too, beyond verbal expression, also other modalities of communication are also supported through research in a virtual platform as well. Like, for example, I have a handful of clients that use communication devices and are autistic, and we have made incredible strides during our time together. Parental involvement in virtual therapy has increased with regards to what research has says. So that virtual platform really promotes a lot of engagement and involvement from families in that plan of care like we previously spoke on. And because of that, it is super powerful to do these virtual sessions from a family's perspective. And the long-term impact, just really see it's the same. So in person, virtual, they're the same. And as long as you're attending consistently and you're engaged and you're motivated, you're going to make great progress. Shifting gears specifically to talking about reading services, I think that it would be great to talk about what this looks like in a virtual world because reading is something that I'm super passionate about. I'm a reading interventionist trained in the Orton Gillingham method of reading intervention, and I'm super excited by the opportunity to work virtually with my clients for a lot of reasons. But before we jump into those details, let's talk a little bit more about what all reading services even covers because it can also be pretty vast, similar to a speech therapist's scope of practice. When we're thinking reading services, we're talking about the foundations like phonological awareness, alphabet awareness, letter sound correspondence, and then moving from that foundational skill, we can target spelling, reading fluency, comprehension, using graphic organizers and memory strategies to help with higher level reading tasks, writing skills, and as well as revision skills. So it's pretty broad and covers the gamut with regards to when you first start learning about reading fundamentally when you're in preschool or kindergarten, all the way through. I've had clients all the way up to college that benefit from these services. So, how does reading services work? So, I like to do my services highly customized to what my client needs, what my client loves, and what families feel is important to them. So, using those three principles, I shape it all into a plan of care. And because it's so customized, it can be different for each of my clients, but at large, it can include auditory and visual drills of known concepts at the sound level. So, thinking about just learning sounds. C says, "K." I see C in the beginning of words. I can see it in the middle. I can see it at the end, and learning those kinds of foundational skills and fundamentals. And then from that, we can also attach that teaching to the word level, the sentence level, and as well as moving all the way up to the essay or multi-paragraph report level for reading skills as well as those spelling skills. We'll practice applying these new concepts in a myriad of ways. We can do it by using homework that's already been assigned so it doesn't feel like we're inundating our kids with work because kids already work so hard. We can utilize their curriculum to teach them these skills specifically to what their classroom needs are, which is pretty cool, as opposed to reinventing the wheel and feeling like we're overwhelming them with additional strategies to really demonstrate how flexible these strategies can be across all kinds of things outside of school, in school, and then turning it into some more fun extracurricular practice as well. What makes them passionate? I have so many kiddos that are really into Minecraft. So we talk a lot about Minecraft and we think about how can we utilize spelling and reading concepts within the game and looking at like design, building instructions and things like that and getting really creative with it is like my favorite part about virtual reading intervention. Of course, we want to learn about things that don't quite follow the rules and then taking that all the way through to home programming as well. So the Orton Gillingham approach that I mentioned I'm specifically trained in is a multisensory learning approach. And I think that multisensory learning is not only so evidence-based, but it's really powerful on a virtual platform as well. So fundamentally, Orton Gillingham was developed in the 30s by a neuropsychiatrist and pathologist named Dr. Samuel Orton, who is an educator, as well as a psychologist, Anna Gillingham, to target word blindness, aka dyslexia, how we call it now. And it really breaks down reading and spelling into these smaller skills and teaching you with a multisensory approach, hands on, listening strategies, visual strategies, all put together to learn about these phonics skills. And it's super neurodiversity affirming, which is particularly important to my practice as I am very neurodiversity affirming and strength based in the way I do my work. So this is really easily transported into a virtual lens by making it really lean into special interests like we were mentioning before. So there are a couple slides coming up that show some examples of my specific work that I've done with reading clients that really lean into making it flexible, multisensory, and fun for my clients to really optimize their outcomes as much as possible. But how can reading virtual services be a good fit for you and for your family? The four primary reasons why I feel it's so helpful is the consistency, continuous learning, even through school breaks or unexpected disruptions. Like recently, we had a lot of snow days come across our table. None of my kids had to cancel. Everyone still had the services that they needed and had that continuity of care, which is key for making progress and ultimately mastering our goals. It can be very curriculum specific. So kind of like I mentioned before, what's exciting about virtual is families can share these specific learning platforms that their kids are using to learn, to have that individualized intervention supporting exactly how it's being taught in school. So for example, if your kiddo is using Letterland, Canva, Google Classroom, I have families connect me with those platforms so that way I can see exactly how the curriculum is moving forward with the taught concept and how can we be flexible with our strategies that are individualized to my clients' needs and how their brains work and bring it into the school world. So again, it doesn't feel like we're learning something that's new. We're building upon skills that are already there and ways that we are taught that are already there. You can also learn in a supernatural setting, which often makes it easier to carry over those skills when a therapist or a parent is not present. So when you're home, we're using what we have. You don't need to go run off to Target and break the bank trying to get all of these tools to help with therapy. We can absolutely make all the progress we need to make to feel comfortable and confident with ourselves with what we have. So doing services virtually at home with someone guiding you and showing you these opportunities for, hey, that's a great tool to practice this skill. Hey, grab that for me. We're going to implement that into our session. So when I hang up with you, you know this is here as an option for you. It's just so salient and so powerful. And the same is said for when you're pushing into a classroom setting online too. So when my kids are at school and they log on, it's the same kind of thing. They bring their backpack, they bring their homework folder, and they show me there, like, Miss Megan, this is what we're doing today. And then we're able to really connect what is happening in their day to what we are working on and show them that all of these things go together. It's not one or the other. They go hand in hand so beautifully. And that flexible learning environment is definitely something that's really big. So when we have breaks in school, unexpected disruptions, vacations, or extended breaks like a summer or spring break kind of situation, services continue. You can log on at home, you can go in the school. If you're on vacation and feeling really inspired to continue your work, you can hop on while you're in the hotel or wherever the case may be. And the work never stops. The learning never stops. So it's pretty exciting to be able to have that as an opportunity because that certainly is a unique benefit to virtual services and a barrier to in-person services sometimes. So here is some of the customized reading support that I've done with my virtual clients. This client in particular is learning about fundamentals. We're starting from identifying letter names and the sounds they make and connecting all of those together to start spelling and reading simple words. He's super into Minecraft. So mob is a term that's very big in Minecraft. I'm honestly not quite sure what a mob is, although I've spelled it and I've talked about it many times. And so we're utilizing that familiar language from Minecraft to keep ourselves engaged. This client specifically is very visual in how they like to learn, and just the normal letter formation was not exciting enough to remember. So we spent time customizing every single letter with a cool design and an interesting name. And now this client can name every single letter in the alphabet like this. And not only when it's presented in these fun and exciting letters, but on like a normal typed paragraph as well, which is really exciting. The client's also super into Star Wars, so we make these connections like Anakin is a representative of the letter A. We have another one where it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi represents O, Yoda represents Y. So again, really tailoring it to their needs. And this is built out in a Google Sheets, or not, sorry, a Google Slides deck. So it's easily accessible for his parents to bring into their home practice whenever they feel it's appropriate and necessary to support his learning. Another example I have is for spelling concepts. This client of mine is really competitive. So we made Jeopardy! We made a Jeopardy game online. There was music, there was competition and fanfare, and he was so into this that he was actively asking his parents after our sessions, hey, can we play Jeopardy! And because of that, we were flying through our goals because he was so excited by this opportunity to have this kind of platform presented to him that really leaned into his competitive nature. And for some of my more Pokemon inclined kids, Pokemon is anime. Anime has a lot of these like fun cartoon, almost like graphic novel-y type punctuation marks that float around. So what better way to learn about question mark versus exclamation point? Let's use Pokemon. We bring that into our sessions, and it's not only great for teaching that fundamental sentence, the sentence dictation, but in addition to that, the revision piece and how when we're reading, how do we read? Does our voice go up It does. There's a question mark. We have to have that rising intonation to indicate a question. When we're reading something or sharing something that's exciting, exclamation point's the way to go. And he's remembering this like a snap of a finger because it's connected to something he's so passionate about. And the other way that I like to incorporate some fun things with some of my older kiddos that are not only doing spelling and reading, but also working on building grammar and having our vocabulary grow, Mad Libs. Such a classic game. So many opportunities for reading, parts of speech, spelling. And then when you read it all through, it's hilarious and it just never stops. The fun is endless with Mad Libs. And finally, at an even higher level, this client and I were working on essays and writing. We started on spelling and progressed all the way to essay writing. And this client was particularly inspired by Komodo dragons. So we brought that into our session. We brought the work in, and he was able to access this Google Doc remotely from his home, from school, and he was putting all these hilarious pictures and GIFs and memes and things like that that he was really interested in, while also keeping the learning exciting because he had that opportunity to insert those images into the work, but also work through a topic that was of interest to him, targeting creating an outline. How do we get this outline and make this into a paragraph form? How do we check our work and revise it to make sure it's meeting the rubric standards? And then ultimately, all of that work put together made him feel super confident in being able to have the process beginning to end basically independently with a toolbox full of things that he knew how to practice because of this exciting work that we did together. And he graduated, and we're super proud of him. So, as you can see, there are so many ways we can target this, a variety of skill levels, ages, passions, and it's not just something that's seated. As long as you have internet access, it can look any way that you want it to be. So, why is a virtual session a good fit? We can practice all of these things that we've reviewed. This is like our summary, right? So, we have the auditory support, we have the visual support, we can have a hands on support, we can prep activities that are really getting your hands into the learning to make it really stick. And there's continuity of care. We incorporate our special interests. Parents are so heavily involved. That really is just such an excellent opportunity for anyone with any kinds of goals to make really great strides. So let's talk about the logistics. We're like, all right, research says it's good. You know, you can target all kinds of things. That's great. But logistically, what does this look like? Because as caregivers or parents, we got to know how the logistics would look in order to understand whether it truly is a good fit. So it's pretty simple. You hop onto Zoom or Google Meet using a specific link that the therapist would provide you. And both of these platforms, Google and Zoom, are both HIPAA compliant, meaning that they're privacy protected. So that's really wonderful to have just like as a check mark in the back of our brain. We have all these virtual games or parallel play, projects, anything that's already like predetermined by the therapist is already set up when they are coordinated with the family. And it kind of just depends on the child's age and their goals, what all is done during the session. So if a parent is present, they're heavily involved, they're hands on, they're receiving that feedback and education from the therapist, myself, real time. And if the parent is not present because the child or adult is able to participate independently, then the session is terminated a little bit early, 5 minutes early for a 30-minute session, and about 7 minutes early for an hour-long session to have that parent or caregiver come in so we can talk through everything that we did, what worked, what didn't work, hear ideas for carryover practice at home. And carryover is discussed to really support that independence and growth and confidence. And like I said before, just because the sessions are virtual doesn't mean they're conducted sitting at a table. Like currently I'm sitting down at a table, but I've done sessions where I am doing movement activities. I've played hide and seek. I've done scavenger hunts. I've taken my laptop around my house and found my pets and talked about my pets with my kids. You know, we're really getting creative in how we're moving, how we're incorporating things. And it's not one size fits all. That's never the case with virtual therapy. It's really meant to be highly customized to whatever works best for you and your family. So it's super fun and very creative to be able to get into this kind of work online. So we can have dance parties. The sessions can be inside. I've done sessions in a playground, in a Starbucks, at the beach, at the state fair, even. And all of those sessions were evidence based. All of them, the kids made progress. They were attentive and they were excited to share and bring me around their world with them and show them in those opportunities where things are not just seated at a table or at home. How can all of my goals present themselves in real life? It's not just a little bubble that we're living in that these goals are applicable. They're not only applicable at home or at school, it really is applicable every single day, no matter where you are or who you're with. So having those opportunities to bring me along is pretty cool because it really makes it so concrete, that learning opportunity for my kiddos. As long as we have internet, we can certainly make progress. So here are some really awesome visuals of what therapy has looked like with myself and some of my colleagues. So in this top left corner was a graduation party with my friend. He graduated after about 2 years of hard work. He is pretty young, as you can see. So we were working on early intervention, just building our expressive language and building those comprehension skills. His mom was so heavily involved on the floor, playing and using our strategies. And then he graduated and he's doing so good. I actually checked in with him as I was sharing this picture in my slide deck, and he is just thriving right now, which is really exciting. Alongside of that, you'll see this little friend was engaging with the therapist's pet. So pets are great. They're motivating, they're exciting. People love talking about their pets and showing their pets. So what an awesome opportunity to work on our goals, utilizing that opportunity. Down here, we have someone as young as teeny tiny babies participating in virtual therapy. And because it's so parent centric, this is just such an excellent coaching opportunity to have infants work on physical therapy goals, occupational therapy goals, feeding goals, even as long as we have that parent to therapist communication line open, we're making progress. Our friend over here is participating in something that's heavily movement based. We're doing yoga, we're playing Simon Says, and these two down here are working on reading and spelling skills on a virtual platform. And I thought this kiddo in the bottom right was particularly cute because his practice poster says, "I love Emerge," which we all do. So I'm so glad that he felt that way, and I felt very compelled to include it in my presentation. So let's talk about some frequently asked questions. We've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about everything from speech scope of practice to speech virtual, reading services virtual, the research. And now let's talk a little bit more about those frequently asked questions. What technology is needed? Pretty much just internet. As long as you have internet, you can do our sessions on a computer, a tablet, a smartphone. All we need is a camera and a microphone and that stable internet connection to be successful. The platforms that we use are secure HIPAA compliant platforms like Zoom. Their platform is another one that's pretty popular. Google Meet, like I mentioned previously. And the database that we use for tracking our notes and our documentation is called Jane and is also with HIPAA compliance and has that virtual option as well. So there are a bunch of different choices. It just kind of depends on what works best for your family. How can I ensure my child stays engaged? This is the biggest one I always get. The families are always very concerned that their kiddo is not going to pay attention on a virtual platform. And the way that we remain engaged is by tapping into those interests, tapping into what motivates us and capitalizing on that motivation. Even if you're in person, if your child isn't motivated, they're not going to pay attention. So I think this is something that's the same in person and virtual, as long as that therapist is really focusing on building a relationship and building trust and excitement with that relationship and their client. That's the best way to stay engaged and to be open to making things change on the fly if needed to cater towards whatever that child needs. We're meeting our kids where they're at. We're not forcing them to meet us where we are. That's not the reason that we're here. That's not how we do things at Emerge. Thinking more about parental involvement, do parents have to be present? Depends. The answer is kind of no if they're older, although I still really like when families are around just so they can see how things are going and how things are targeted. Really ultimately depends on the child's age. Like my friend that was graduating, he was younger. His mom definitely needed to be present. And then I have kids that are older, high school, college age. They're pretty independent on doing things on their own. So it just kind of depends on what works best for the kiddo and the family's preferences. How can I support progress between sessions? Excellent question. I always get really excited when families like homework because the more that you practice outside of our sessions, the more that progress is just going to become abundant and it's going to become so obvious. And that's where we gain our confidence and continue that intrinsic motivation to keep working hard. So we can always provide recommendations on using daily routines, encouraging communication, providing more like traditional worksheets if that's something that's preferred. This kind of stuff is very much catered towards the kiddo and the way that their brain likes to learn. Scheduling logistics with Emerge, our virtual speech sessions is kind of dependent upon your insurance type. Typically, I do 30-minute sessions for sessions that are covered by insurance. And if you're self-pay or you're pursuing speech services with me, which is not billed through insurance, those are an hour long to provide ample opportunity for breaks, plenty of repetition and practice, as well as like direct instruction. But it again kind of depends on the kid. I always want to meet them where they're at. So if they need something that's a little bit shorter to support their attention span and to support their regulation, I'm totally fine and flexible with doing 30 minutes, even though an hour is possible. If a family prefers an hour to get more work done, I'm also happy to do that. So it really depends on insurance and preference. How frequently should my kiddo have sessions? The frequency depends on the need, of course, as well, and it typically ranges between 1 to 3 times a week. Typically, those 3 time a week kiddos are being seen for like an hour of reading intervention and then maybe a half-hour session for another area, such as feeding or articulation, what have you. Most typically, I'll see my kids 2 times a week for 30-minute sessions. What happens if we miss a session? Many providers offer those rescheduling options. So if life happens and you have to cancel, like you have a vacation, someone wakes up sick, you just want to take a day off because you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, that's totally okay. We can have a makeup session. And because of the flexibility that virtual offers, it's very easy to find another time to pop that session in and still keep that progress going. So missing a session is not a problem at all, as long as we're having that continuity of care encouraged through makeup sessions. Insurance. This is a big one. Insurance is super important and often a deciding factor in how and when you pursue services. Does insurance cover virtual speech therapy? So many insurance plans do cover virtual therapy, but it's definitely best to check with your provider because it can be policy specific. Currently, Medicaid, TRICARE, and commercial insurances cover speech therapy virtually, no problem at all. That can change depending on how things change with insurance. Sometimes it feels like insurance changes somewhat regularly, which is one of the more frustrating parts about the work that we do. But again, sometimes you just want to give a call and have that confirmation. And depending on how it's being provided, whether in person or at school, that can also be a determining factor in insurance coverage as well. Can I pay for virtual speech out of pocket? Absolutely. If you are paying out of pocket, we are basically boundless. We have no limits that are given to us by insurance with regards to frequency, how many times a week, length of session, where the session is conducted. All of that is up to us in the event that you do choose to pay for services out of pocket, which is kind of nice. Effectiveness and conditions treated. So this is almost like a recap as well as how we started our presentation today. Virtual speech covers everything. We can do articulation, language differences, stuttering, social communication, reading intervention. I've done feeding. I've done orofacial myofunctional therapy online. You name it, I've probably done it online and have been successful, which is pretty cool to share that I've had all those opportunities to work with so many different kinds of kiddos with so many different goals and still feel really empowered by the work that I do. Another popular question that I often receive is, does virtual therapy help autistic children? And the answer is yes. Many autistic children benefit from virtual therapy, especially when special interests are incorporated and when parents are involved. And there are age limits. No, basically the day you're born, honestly, to the day you die, you can benefit from speech therapy, and it can probably be done online as well. There's so much opportunity and flexibility with online therapy. Empowerment and building confidence. How does virtual therapy promote confidence? Children can practice in familiar and comfortable environments, which can boost their confidence. Sometimes we have a little bit of stranger danger when you're entering a clinic. Sometimes therapists wear scrubs and it can feel like a doctor's office, and that might make children feel a little bit uncomfortable. So having the session be conducted at home definitely helps them with being confident in engaging with someone because they're in their safe place. They can wear what they want, like they can be in PJs, they can have a snack that's preferred that's maybe available at home, preferred toys, mom and dad can potentially be present. So that really helps promote confidence during virtual sessions. Families benefit from virtual sessions for all the reasons that we've talked about, such as that engagement and involvement from caregivers. I've had grandmothers participate, nannies participate. I've even had clients that have ABA therapists that go to the home participate in sessions as well. So we're building a team approach. So everyone's on the same page about how our speech goals are targeted. And it's a great opportunity to workshop and collaborate and connect with everybody that's involved in this child's life. And finally, can virtual therapy be adapted to different learning styles? 100%. This is like my favorite part about virtual is that ability to be so specialized and so individualized. We can incorporate anything under the sun that's going to get our children motivated as long as it's accessible to us. So we can personalize with visual, auditory, interactive elements. We can have different games. We can have specific people participate. So really, the world is our oyster with virtual therapy. And reaching the end of our presentation today, let's kind of just do a quick recap here. So, what services are offered virtually? I've spoken primarily about speech therapy and reading services, which are offered virtually, and occupational and physical therapy can be offered virtually as long as you call to verify coverage with your insurance. We also have two programs that are unique to Emerge: virtual sensory based consulting, which is more of a parent coaching opportunity as to how to bring sensory integration approaches into your home setting to support your children and their sensory needs, as well as Taskmasters, which is hosted by our executive director and occupational therapist, Brittany Winslow. And this is more about executive functioning support and how we can implement that support in the home and school setting. There are actually past webinars that were done on virtual sensory-based consulting, taskmasters, and reading therapy in general if you'd like more information about that in detail. And those can be accessed on our YouTube channel for more information. I'm super excited to share that I personally have immediate availability on my schedule for speech therapy, reading intervention, feeding therapy, what have you, and would definitely love to have some more kiddos join me in making some progress and getting excited about our goals. I'm super passionate about the work that I do online, so definitely eager to share this opportunity as I know finding that spot can be one of the hardest parts about getting started. So we definitely have availability immediately with me. Da 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 da, exciting. And if you're wanting some more testimonials or references on what services look like with me online, I picked a couple from families that I'm super, super proud to work with and support. So, families have shared that virtual with me is convenient, it's customized based on their boys' interests, and they feel that their experience online is just as impactful as in person. Another family has shared that doing virtual sessions allowed their children to do speech after school. So, this was definitely a convenience and accessibility thing. It was so efficient with this parent's time since they didn't have to drive back and forth. I worked hard to incorporate online games and activities to make it fun and engaging, which got the kids excited about attending speech. And this family in particular had a lot of children, and I saw a good handful of them for speech therapy. So, that coordination piece was just really clutch on the virtual platform. This family has an autistic son that's 8 years old, and I have the pleasure of working with them weekly. We do a virtual format, and I have so much joy in working with this client and connecting with him to make each of the sessions look a little bit different to cater whatever his level of regulation is that day, his communication style that day, whether it's AAC device, verbal communication. His parents are always present for all of the sessions. So we work together, and they have shared that they feel our sessions together are effective, if not more so virtual than in person. And being home allowed their son to feel comfortable. And I work really hard to learn how to maximize their setup at home. And this is my favorite testimonial that I've ever received. This is directly from one of my clients, a 9-year-old autistic boy with ADHD. And this is what he shared. This is the ranking of the best days of my life. Number one, the day of my birth. Number two, the day I got my Nintendo Switches. Number three, the day I turned 9. And number four, today. the most productive session ever. So this client in particular does reading services with me, and I've just been so pleased to be part of his growth journey and really watch him flourish in the areas that we work on. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'd be happy to talk about anything specific that you may have regarding your kid and how virtual services may be best supporting your child and the goals that you have with them, or any questions in particular. All right. I'm not seeing any questions here in our chat. So, with that, I'm so happy to share all of this information with you on a Friday entering the afternoon time. Thank you so much for your time and your attention today. I'm super proud of being a therapist with Emerge and just feeling really passionate about being a speech therapist, providing therapy in an accessible and individualized way. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. You can contact me at megan@emergepeats.com. And if you would like to get started with us, you can scan this QR code and it'll direct you to our website, and it'll prompt you to complete our inquiry form. Once you fill out the inquiry form that shares what kind of intervention you're seeking, your insurance information, and what clinic or virtual options that you're interested in, you'll get connected with one of the scheduling coordinators on our team to talk through your options and to help get the progress started. So I am feeling super, super blessed for your time. If anything comes up, like I said, you're welcome to contact me at any time. Always happy to just kind of shoot questions back and forth with each other to help figure out the best fit for families and make everyone feel supported in this progress towards confidence. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.